about 10 minutes.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Unready Room. We're live talking about jalapenos and tasting things. I'm Dan Gunther. With me, of course, as always, Brandi Jackola. Brandi, um, how you doing? You sound like you're a little under the weather.
I am a little bit under the weather, so tonight this is the voice you get. Sorry about that.
There's this kind of like kind of a cool husky quality to it. It's kind of you should be like in a lounge singing blues maybe or something, or like jazz standards, or I don't know.
Well, I can definitely sing baritone right now. Usually, I'm an alto in the tenor range. Now it's just all baritone.
Yeah, well, I think it could work for you.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
All seriousness though, oh man, I hope you get feeling better. That's not fun. So not
At
fun
least
at
I
all.
look fabulous, right?
Always, absolutely.
Fishing for compliments, yeah.
Hey, they're there, easy to catch. So yeah, something like that. Yeah, so welcome everyone to the Unready Room. We are unready as usual, and going to talk about the latest episode of Star Trek Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I got all excited. Season 5 started filming, so my brain's on there at the moment. But no, Strange New Worlds, the Serene Squall is the episode we're talking about, episode 7. And yeah, lots to talk about in this one. I think we don't usually say this because it kind of goes without saying, but we should put at the top of this: spoilers, 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 spoilers. We're going to talk about everything in this episode. So, if you haven't watched it and you don't want spoilers and you haven't already somehow been spoiled, yeah, just putting that warning out there. So,
Yeah. I have to say, Dan, we were both thinking along the same lines with our middle names, so.
yes. Oh, of course. Yeah, definitely.
At least that's how I'm guessing it starts,
Well, we'll get there for sure. Because yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of people talking about this because there's some other things in the episode that are maybe overshadowing. But like, let's note there's a certain Vulcan here, and not the Vulcan everyone's talking about that shows up. So,
Yep.
I think that's a good compliment. I like, and yeah, absolutely. You've got kind of a Janeway-esque thing going on there. I like that.
Thank you. That is, I'll take it because I greatly admire Captain Janeway and Kate Mulgrew, so I will take it. I've also been compared to Shore Agdashlu, and I will take that
Oh
as well.
yeah. Great. Yeah, that's you're in good company there with that. Yeah, for sure.
Who has also been in Trek.
Yes, she has. Commodore Paris.
Yep.
Interesting name as well. Anyway,
Hmm.
but yeah, we should talk about this. So first of all, the Serene Squall, the title. Before ever seeing the episode, did you happen to notice the title before you ever watched the episode? And if so, what did you think this episode was going to be about? Because I was honestly unsure.
Well, yeah, we do get the episode names with the screeners. Usually. Sometimes they pull a bait and switch on us, but most of the time, it is the correct title. And I thought offhandedly, sounds like a ship name.
See, I went way too literal, and I was like, okay, squall, so like a storm. They encounter a storm, but Serene Squall. That's kind of didn't seem to make a lot of sense. But of course, pirate ship name. We got a pirate episode, and cue everybody in the comments chatting and typing and talking like pirates. We will definitely allow that. If it's good enough for Pike, it's good enough for the rest of us.
I will resist the temptation to say, please stop.
Excellent.
I shouldn't laugh. It makes me cough.
Well, if the past performance in this show is in any Wow, I can't even talk tonight for very different reasons. Um, if the past of this show is any indication, then we're going to make you laugh quite a bit. So just fair warning.
I'm
Yay.
here for it.
Well, to start out with, the one thing when this episode started, I was genuinely surprised about, and I don't know why I shouldn't be surprised at this point because it's happened 3 times now. To Pring, it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, okay, we'll touch on this story, once or twice, and maybe it'll come back around next season. Nope, we're picking up again with the T'Pring Spock story, which I'm not complaining about at all because if my two favorite episodes of this season are any indication, I'm apparently here for it because
Mm.
yeah, well, I'll share my thoughts on this episode by the end, but suffice it to say, I really liked this one. So, were you surprised to see T'Pring back so soon?
No.
Hmm.
I thought they're not gonna just have her show up twice, and that's the end of it. They're definitely going to be using her throughout the season. Plus, in the, trailer for the season, she's in scenes that we haven't seen yet.
Hmm.
So, I was suspecting that she would feature frequently in this season, and, anytime that Spock and T'Pring are talking, it's just comedy gold, especially if it involves an almost spit take, so
Yes. So yeah, let's talk about that because T'Pring has been studying up, trying to acquaint herself with Spock's human side, be- to get closer to that part of his culture, as she says. And yeah, that takes Spock a bit by surprise. And
a bit.
I love like everything about this bit with Spock is so good because there's the loss of composure with the kind of choke and like you say almost spit take, and then you expect like Vulcans usually cover it with some sort of flowery language like I was unprepared for it. No, he says what?
What what yeah, that's all he's got. That's all he's got.
So good. I love however that decision got made to make that his dialogue. Brilliant. That's it. What?
It was a very human response.
I love it. Now, a couple episodes ago with T'Pring, I kind of suggested, and I think this was in the Positively Trek podcast, that we haven't really seen Vulcans doing a lot of kissing before, with a few exceptions. So my kind of fan theory in my head was that like T'Pring is all about Spock's human half is bringing this whole kissing thing, and she's kind of into it. Like she's kind of like, oh, this is weird and kinky and not what Vulcans usually do. And now doubling down with this episode, I'm like, okay, yep, that's why they kiss so much. That's it's
Mm.
it's a kinky human thing that not a lot of Vulcans do, but when they're behind closed doors, T'Pring's like, I like this. Let's do more of this.
I don't think we have enough evidence to say that it's only because he's half human.
Yeah, no, but
So because
that's why it's
Vulcans
head canon, not
let's see, yeah, because that's
canon
the
canon.
thing. We know Vulcans have sex outside of Pon farr,
Hmm.
otherwise, there would be a bunch of generations of people 7 years apart. So, we know that's
No.
not how it works,
Well,
and it's obvious they kiss each other. I mean
yeah. Well, I just want to be clear. I'm talking just about
oh, yes.
kissing, not about sex, because
Yeah.
there are human cultures that don't kiss, right? So it
Are
just
there?
there are
Why?
actually, yeah. Um,
Why? It's so much fun.
I know, right? But yeah, so that was just kind of my little head canon that like we don't see Vulcans do that a lot. So she's like,
Well,
I like this
I
human
think
thing.
I think we should see more Vulcans kissing Vulcans, you
Yeah, I
know?
think so.
I think we need more of that.
Yeah,
Just my personal opinion.
fair enough, for sure. But yeah, no, T'Pring definitely does seem interested in exploring that human side of things and has become very well read in a lot of that, which I thought was kind of fun. So yeah.
Yeah, it was fun, but at the same time, it was kind of uncomfortable because she's doing all of this research and not including him in it, and
Hmm.
it's just kind of it's very Vulcan. It's like, "Oh, I'm researching what it's like for a half human, half Vulcan that I have no experience with, so I'm gonna delve into all this human stuff," and when he says, "Perhaps we should read some of these texts together," she is really put out, like,
It's like,
for,
if you wish.
yeah. It was just and it's so funny because, again, micro expressions. Both Gia and Ethan are very good at Vulcan micro expressions, and she just has just the tiniest it's like not even a full even it's like half a micro expression, if there's such a thing. It's so brilliant, and
Hmm.
you just know she is pissed off.
They're both brilliant. They're so good at these characters, and
Mhm.
any little interaction they have is there's just so much to play with for sure. So meanwhile, put a pin in that for now. T'Pring will come back, of course, but in the meantime, we've got a visiting dignitary, as you know, is a Star Trek trope. We've got Dr. Aspen coming aboard the ship, played by the amazing Jesse James Keitel. I was completely blown away by her performance as Dr. Aspen. And I'm going to just state this now because if I do mess things up at some point, I apologize. Trust me, I edit myself when I'm doing podcasts, so I know how much I mess things up. And I'm like, ooh, there's something that's never going to see the light of day because I screwed that up. But Jesse James Keitel's pronouns are she, her. The
Mhm.
character of Dr. Aspen / Captain Angel is they, them. So, yeah.
But do we know that Captain Angel is they, them? Because Dr. Aspen is a real person
I
and
wondered about that too.
has been deposited on some abandoned planet.
Hmm.
So, we don't really know that for a fact, but we will assume and
Yeah,
continue with they, them.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so yeah, if I screw that up, I apologize. Call me out
Same,
on it if I do. So
same, same.
yeah, so just assume that when I say she, I'm referring to the actor, and when I say they, I'm referring to the character.
Agreed, agreed. I feel the same way about that. We're going with that.
Absolutely. So yeah, Jessie on this show, so amazing. I'm like, how have I not seen her in other things? She's incredible, and it's funny the evolution of the character throughout the episode because there's always this niggling thing in the back of your mind that like something's not quite right here, but I'm digging the character so much that the episode has me not wanting to think that they're bad or a bad guy, but like rewatching it, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, there's all of the little tells. But like her performance, she does such a great job here, and the writing and everything. The what the character says to Spock at the end when they say that they were manipulating him with emotion the whole time, absolutely. Even the parts that weren't explicit manipulation still affected him quite a bit, but there were parts that were just like you could tell they were probing and finding the exact thing and then going for it. And it
Mhm.
was so well written and so well played on the screen too.
Yeah, it's quite a feat because I've watched it 3 times now because I had to watch it twice because I was doing another podcast on Monday, and that was before the episode was available on Paramount Plus. So I watched the screener again, and then, of course, we always watched it watch it on Thursday when it comes out, and so we have subtitles, which is how I was finally certain, yes, she said Ston. So I just wanted to make sure, but it was unclear. Anyway, just everything that they do in the course of the first 20 minutes or so of this episode is absolutely calculated, and it's when on the second watch, it is so brilliant at how good they
Mhm.
are at every little thing. Things that don't seem like they would matter at the time just build on each other and build on each other until, yeah, full trust to the point where Spock is, instead of just nerve pinching a guy, just beating the absolute crap out of him for, daring to harm a hair on Dr. Aspen's head.
Yep. I definitely noticed that. I was like, because his hand, when he goes to pick him up, is within nerve pinch range, but
Oh,
nope,
absolutely. He
makes
had
the
plenty
choice. Whew.
plenty of opportunity. I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't just punch him. He beat that guy. He beat the crap out of that guy and then tossed him as far as he possibly could. He was angry.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, that was actually a little bit scary scene there. Ethan Peck plays the
Mm.
scary side of Spock pretty well too. That was good.
Oh, it's not his
Um,
first time playing a villain. I
no,
mean, not that not the Spock's a villain, but he has
yeah,
had things
yeah,
where he's done the darker side of humans.
absolutely. Uh, yeah, okay. Let's talk about. I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but
We always do this, Dan. Don't
yeah.
apologize for it.
Oh no, I wouldn't dream of that. But yeah, they're they have to leave Federation space because Dr. Aspen is aboard to help them find these colony ships that have supposedly gone missing, which is a complete fabrication from top to
Mhm.
bottom, apparently. But they have to leave Federation space, and they get trapped in this weird trap. Which are we taking? I'm not sure how to refer to them throughout the rest of the episode. If I should keep saying Dr. Aspen or Captain Angel, but the
Say
fact that
Aspen Angel. There you go.
yeah, the fact that they are Captain Angel makes anything they say suspect.
Mhm.
So the information that they give us is that this was not a trap set by the Serene Squall. If it was, you'd be dead. I think the easiest explanation is it was a trap set by them, designed to get them to trust Dr. Aspen more, kind of thing, or something
Mhm.
like that. Option A, that's kind of the easiest one. Option B, if for whatever reason they are telling the truth and that was not a trap set by them, was that the Tholians? Because that sure seemed Tholian webbish.
It was way too fast to be Tholians, and you know it.
I mean, that was the same speed they did it in the Enterprise episode as well, which was 100
Yeah.
years earlier, although in the mirror universe. But
Yeah, it was just, because I remember the episode, The Tholian Web, quite well, and had the
mhm.
Enterprise not been, you know, stuck where they were, they coulda gotten out of there. I mean, it was basically 2 ships
Yeah, because there
at
was
this rate of speed
yeah,
making a web.
but the Enterprise episode they had kind of like in this one they had different
I know.
projectors all around and they threw it up really fast. So that looked really
Well,
similar.
it did, but I don't think that it was the Tholians because I think it was, again, another manipulation by
Mhm.
Aspen Angel because every move that they're making is completely calculated towards
Mhm.
their final goal, which requires manipulating Spock. Because whose station are they hanging out at? Do they need to be hanging out at the science station? What does that gain them?
Hmm.
Everybody else would have been just pretty much standing on the bridge, probably by the captain's chair, watching the view screen like everybody else.
Yeah.
But no, she's got to work on Spock. And so everything that she does is either to make him doubt himself or doubt his Vulcanness or doubt his humanity. She is creating all of this doubt and distracting him.
Hmm. Yeah, and I agree. That's where I lean towards too. That was set up by them. It makes the most sense. It's weird
Yeah.
that they'd bring in something else, but I just wanted to mention it because it's something I've seen floating around out there. And of
No,
course,
I
when we saw it in
agree.
the trailer, everybody was like, "Oh, cool, we're getting the Tholians." Like it was just assumed, right? So,
Mhm. Yeah. No, I didn't think it was the Tholians. Also because it's I think somebody else said this. Lawrence Todd said the same thing. The Tholians are more uniformly geometric, and I
mhm,
agree with that.
that makes sense for sure. And because we're in the Unready room, I did not set my phone to do not disturb, which I have now done. But yeah, so in the course of this, I have another comment about this scene that I don't think I've seen a lot of other people making, but
Mm,
I'm curious to get your take on this. Spock has to make a choice. He has to go with a gut, you know, feeling
mhm.
of which one to target. Now,
Yeah.
the only reason he has to do this is because Pike puts it on him too. Pike, you're the one in command. You've got two targets. You've ordered them to fire on that one. Now you're unsure. Spock, make a choice. No, 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 no. You can do that too. Like it's funny that he's put it on Spock to do. I thought that was hilarious.
I think it's because, and I'm going to paraphrase a line from Another Thing, he feels more comfortable about Spock's guesses than most people's facts.
Fair enough, fair enough. But I just thought it was funny that like Pike was giving the order to fire, and then now there's unsureness, and they're like Spock reports they're putting out the exact same readings, and Pike's like,
Mhm.
uh, Spock, make a choice,
Just
dude.
pick one.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't in the end, they would all go kaboom if he was wrong, so it's not like anyone's gonna be around to shake their finger and go, "Dude, you chose wrong," because 'cause they'd all be dead.
or because
Or
we believe that it was a trap set by the Serene Squall to get Dr. Aspen on side with them. Would it have mattered which one they chose?
I don't think that it would have. I think no
Mm,
matter which one they targeted, it would have disabled the trap.
yeah, I think so too.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I loved that bit by Spock where he makes the choice and then just like shudders, and I felt that, and that fits so well with what we've seen from Spock. Like you referenced Star Trek 4, guessing is not in my nature, and he
Mhm.
Kirk asks him to make a guess in a number of episodes, and he says something along the same lines that like there are not enough facts to blah blah blah. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Except when Mr. Scott can't give him exact figures of the weight and density of whales and water, and so and Kirk says to him, "Have you accounted for this?" And he says, "Mr. Scott cannot give me exact figures, so I will make a guess." And he says, "A guess? Spock, that's extraordinary."
I do not believe he understands.
"Oh, no, Spock, he means" and I've already said those
Exactly.
lines.
I love that, just how well it fits in, which leads us, of course, to the scene in Spock's quarters where
Mhm,
Dr. Aspen comes to see if everything is all right. And
mhm.
the dialogue in this whole scene, like the meaningful bits, I love and want to talk about, but even just the little incidental stuff, like just the back and forth. I love the writing in this episode where
Yes.
he says, is there have I given you any reason to think that have I that I would not be okay? And they say no, which is why I asked.
Mhm.
I just love little things like that, and this back and forth, which the very meaningful dialogue about how we always want to put people into boxes and expect them to act a certain way, um, and in even turning Spock's comment back on himself, where I'm half human, blah blah blah, that's just genetics. I was raised on Vulcan. Well, that's just geography. And Spock's like,
Mm.
huh. The look of like befuddlement on his face is like, I have nothing to come back to that with. That was
Mm-hmm.
great. I love that whole scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there are some truths in that scene about putting people into boxes. You're either this or you're that.
Hmm.
And that's all that people who put you in that box are ever going to see and ever going to expect. I've been in boxes like that before, not by choice. People
Hmm.
have put me in boxes like that before, so yeah, it's a truth. He does not have to choose between being Vulcan and human. He's
Yeah.
both and neither. So, but he can't have that because that means identity crisis, and he just simply doesn't have time for that.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And there's that, the dialogue in that scene can be applied to so many situations that all of us have experienced at some point. Um,
Mhm,
Obviously, the one big one that is very apparent, and not one that I'm necessarily comfortable speaking to myself, just because I don't have that experience. I don't haven't lived that experience, but the trans experience, and
mhm,
being told that you're one thing and you have to conform to that, whereas you'd rather people just believe you when you say you're another thing, and not to expect you to conform to how they see you. And I see it in all kinds of walks of life, like people who identify as bisexual but are in an opposite sex marriage or something like that, right?
mhm,
Suddenly, oh, you're not that, you're straight. No, I'm not.
mhm.
Bisexual means both, right? So, or all, I guess, technically. So, yeah, it's such an experience that so many people can talk about. And you know, people will see you doing a certain job, they'll think that you're just that and nothing else. And
Mhm.
we're people contain multitudes. Like, it's a cliche at this point, but it's so true. I love that.
It is true, and why are people so fixated on binary? Why?
Mhm.
Obviously, this world is gigantic, and the variety of what's in this world is innumerable. Why focus on binary? I'll tell you why. Because people are afraid.
Mhm.
They want to seem normal. Normal is overrated and non existent.
Mhm.
There is no normal.
No. And
Just be what you are.
yeah. Your point about the binary is so perfect too. Like, the more that I live this life, I realize that just about any quality or any, I don't know, category that you can put people into is not, a check mark in this column or this column. It's totally a sliding, like it's a slider. Like,
Mhm.
pick any quality, just about any quality, and you can say, like, yeah, I can give you 50 different people on that spectrum. So,
Yeah, and that's
yeah.
exactly what it is, a spectrum,
Hmm.
not 2 points. A spectrum full of points.
Absolutely. Patrick, as Giorgio said, don't be so binary. I actually have a shirt that has the Star Trek symbol and the rainbow pattern behind it, and it says "Don't be so binary" on it. I wonder
Mhm,
where that shirt is. I got to dig that up
mm,
again.
yep,
Yeah. I Needless to say, I love that scene, and I've rewatched that scene a few times over.
yes.
Even though, the character turns out to not be all that they seem, I feel like they were very real in that moment. And yeah.
They tell truths later as well, and that's the most annoying thing is when the villain is right.
Hmm.
Mm. Because, Spock says, "If I am neither human nor Vulcan, then what am I?" And they say, "That's not for me to say." And, yeah, that's one of those things that Spock's gotta figure out for himself.
Yeah. definitely. And I loved, yeah, just making that connection between Spock's experience and that sort of a lesson. I thought that was really clever, really well done.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, so yeah, they happen upon the debris from these supposed two ships, and well, maybe they all escaped on the third ship. Dr. Aspen suggests. So they go searching for that ship and eventually find it, or what they think is that ship.
Mm,
And okay, I kind of skipped over a bit earlier, which I loved, where Dr. Aspen refers to Pike as a Boy Scout.
yes,
And he immediately was like, I'm not a Boy Scout. And number one,
it's in your
Chris,
file.
it's in your file.
And
I
just
love
this look on his face like, "What?"
that.
It was hilarious. At least his hair was not, like, super Johnny Bravo levels this time, it was more like normal hair.
Oh, I have a comment on Pike's hair this
Yeah,
episode. Um,
especially when it falls down. We didn't know it
yeah,
could still do that.
exactly. Uh, so Pike decides to lead the boarding party. I think, and I mean, it's kind of spelled out on the episode, but I think he's pushing back against this Boy Scout thing. And number one
Yeah,
kind of calls him on it and says, "Oh, leaving Federation space without authorization and leading the boarding party. You're trying to push back on this Boy Scout thing." I really like
yeah.
that.
I did too. I was worried for the 3 red shirts that were beaming with them, and I thought, "Oh, please don't die." But
Yeah.
we're not gonna have that trope really carried through in this season because there really hasn't been red shirt deaths. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Thankfully, which I'm glad they're embracing some original old school Star Trek tropes, but not doing necessarily the expected things with them, and then
exactly.
leaving some of the tropes behind, which is good in a lot of cases, I
Yeah,
think. Um,
agree.
but yeah, when they beam over to the ship, they're fairly quickly captured by pirates, and it turns out that ship is the Serene Squall. And in the meantime, pirates have beamed over to Enterprise at the same time. So they very quickly take over the ship as well. So very well organized pirates, at least the ones that take over the Enterprise, but the ones on the Serene Squall with this captain who's not really the captain. I gotta say though, I love this guy. I
Yeah.
love this Orion captain. He was so much fun.
They were definitely the B team.
Yes.
And, everyone's makeup courtesy of Mad Max Fury Road. Thank you for
Hmm.
that. So, a
Yeah.
lot of Furiosa in a lot of the women there. A lot of
Yeah.
Furiosa look.
Absolutely. Uh, I loved Pike's just subtle little sowing the seeds of dissent there, and it's
Mhm.
like, you make the crew eat this? It's like, oh, it's an Orion specialty. They love it. He kind of looks around and they're all like, mm. And he's like, okay, I know the tack to take here.
Yeah.
Um,
Win
and it's
him
like,
over with cooking.
yeah, which made me want like retroactively a scene where Cisco cooks a bunch of like Jem'Hadar or Vorta some jambalaya or something. Like, it's like, oh, we have another cook captain. This could have been a great tactic, but oh
Yeah. Mm. Opportunity lost.
well. Yeah. So the planet name now, where okay, there's a reference to a previous adventure that we never saw. Was
Mhm.
You have watched this with subtitles now, right?
Yes. Well, I knew even before subtitles that they said Alpha Braga 4, and
Okay.
obviously we know who that's referring to.
Okay, that's what I wrote in my notes too, but I didn't have access to subtitles at the time, so that was one I listened to a few times. I was like, it's pretty clearly because one character even pronounces it Braga and another character pronounces it Braga. So I'm like, okay, that's definitely
Mhm.
that, name. So okay, interesting. Good to get confirmation on that because I still
Yeah.
wasn't 100%. But
Well, I am 100%, so
yeah,
you're good.
so
Yeah, it's definitely Braga.
Nice little reference to Brannon Braga, co-executive producer of Voyager and writer for many years in TNG and Voyager. Um, thank you for this comment, by the way. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely agreed. That's all I'll say about that.
Although there are people who do hold a grudge against Brannon Braga for Seven and Chakotay, and I can understand that.
I get that too. Yeah. He earns a lot of forgiveness for writing cause and effect in my
Yes,
mind. I'm like,
agree.
and some other very good episodes, some also very bad episodes, but episodes that have led to a lot of fun discussion, if nothing else. Threshold, excuse me.
I love Threshold. Shut up.
I know, like I said, it's just putting it out there. Not my
I will not.
favorite, but I
I will.
understand.
I don't. It does. It's not a good episode. I will fully admit that, but that doesn't matter. I still love it, and you can't talk me out of it.
Fair enough. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, there's parts of it that I love watching because it's just so ridiculous. I've just always wanted to like get Brandon Braga in a room alone with a biology textbook that talks about how evolution works because that's not the only episode where I'm like, what? Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, thank you for bringing up animated Threshold, by the way. That was one of the best gifts to Star Trek fans from the past week. Brilliant.
Yes, agreed.
Beta Kurtzman 5. I'd have
That
been
would have
okay
been
with that. That
hilarious.
would have been great.
Yeah, because we all know Kurtzman doesn't know anything about Star Trek.
Yeah, apparently. I'm still waiting for the USS Kurtzman. People will lose their crap. That'll be great.
I know that would be. I would feast on their tears.
Yes, absolutely. All right, where are we with this? So, yeah, we've got. They're gonna do an Alpha Braga 4. They're going to stage a mutiny and get the crew fighting against each other, and that's kind of where we leave things with them. We kind of don't see how that all plays out. We see the payoff later, but from this point, we pretty much go over to the Enterprise, where most everyone has been captured and beamed over to the Serene Squall, with a few exceptions. We've got Spock and somehow Dr. Aspen. They've escaped. Even though, rewatching it a second time, there's at least one moment where one of the pirates had them dead to rights and somehow didn't pull the trigger. Shock.
Well, their intent very clearly was not to kill. They wanted hostages or slaves.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that is well. And Aspen does conveniently get shot while she's protecting. Excuse me, while they're protecting Spock.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, yeah, very convenient.
I love the moment too where Spock takes out Dr. Aspen's attacker, because if you watch that, the pirate levels his weapon on Dr. Aspen, and there's like a good beat there where Dr. Aspen's like, and then Spock comes and takes him out. It's like, in retrospect, watching that, it's like, oh, okay. That was
Manipulation. Manipulation.
I'm loving this. Sorry, I keep looking at the conversation about the animated Voyage. So good. Seriously, if you haven't watched it, go check it out, everybody. It's so funny. Yeah, so they escape, but also Nurse Chapel manages to evade capture as well, and we get some great scenes with her in a hypospray, um,
Mm-hmm.
catching two very inept pirates with their pants down. They must have accidentally gotten onto the ship from the B team. They somehow accidentally got assigned to this because, yeah, the one's like, fumbling with his gun while she runs up, and it's great stuff. But I'm loving Chapel.
Yeah.
She's really turning into one of my favorite characters.
Well, again, there are no weak links in this cast, and
No.
Jess Bush proves every week how much she deserves to be there, and so I do love that she took people out with a hypo spray because, of course, that's all she had on her when she saw that crap was going down and just tootled on up into a Jeffries tube like a
Hmm.
badass. And I think part of the fun of that whole scene with the hypo spray is that A, these pirates were not expecting to find anybody, and B, it was just a nurse. They underestimated her, much to their chagrin.
Yeah, like it would have been too action movie tropey, but I kind of filled in the blank after she takes them both out with a hyper spray. I imagined her saying, "Like I said, I'm a nurse," and then she like that would have been maybe a bit much, but
Yeah.
it stayed in my head anyway. Um,
Which well, and the thing is that at this point, she is not part of Starfleet yet. She is still a civilian. And
mhm,
so she may not know all of the things that happen when there's somebody taking over the ship. And so she's trying to send an SOS, a
mhm,
distress call, and doesn't understand why she can't do it. And she's like so angry and just like I would be, why is it so hard to send a distress call? Because locked down. Command functions have been locked down by Una, which is
mhm.
definitely the first thing you do when someone's invading your bridge.
Yeah, definitely. Which leads her to engineering, where she's trying to get past this. And speaking of the hypo spray, I love that when Spock and Captain Angel walk in, she like holds the hypo spray on them from like a good 10 meters away, and you're like, what are you gonna do with that? I love
Does
that.
does that have a squirt function on it?
That was excellent. Um, yeah, so we've got that scene in engineering between all of them. I'm going to jump back, by the way, very quickly
Mm,
to the beginning of the episode to mention another one of my absolute favorite lines that I forgot to mention, where they're walking down the hallway and Spock kind of in a roundabout way asks for relationship advice again, and Chapel's like, no, last time I did that, you went way too far with it. And they have that whole conversation where initially Spock wasn't listening to anything she was saying because he was so preoccupied. And I loved where she gives him a pro tip: you better pay attention while I'm talking, because, and then Spock replies, because you are completely charming and I am missing it.
mhm,
And she's like, yep, that's progress, you got it.
mhm. And the look on his face when he says that too is just so oh,
Yeah, they're so great together.
they are.
Oh, I did. Oh, my Canadian was showing. Yeah. 20 feet, 30
I
feet,
would
something
say
like that.
it's Star Trek. They measure things in meters. So yeah,
Yeah, I
you
was
just
just,
go ahead and say that. Mm.
yeah. I was trained at Starfleet Academy, guys. Come
Yeah,
on.
duh. So was I, but I still, I speak in US terms when I have to.
Yeah, yeah. Know my audience, right? I
Mhm, mhm.
forgot. Yeah, so, okay. Back to where we were in the episode. This is, of course, the big reveal that what we I think knew by this point, like when the camera moves over and you've just seen that Dr. Aspen is starting to work the control panel, and like kind of shockingly naive, Spock and Chapel are like, wait, command functions are being rerouted. The door's unlocked. What's going on? And I'm like, oh, come on, turn around, turn
Mhm.
around. Sure
Yep.
enough. Yeah.
And that was when Dave said, "I knew it! I knew it all along! I knew they were up to no good!" Yeah, I was suspicious from the beginning as well, especially with the little tete-a-tete with Spock in his quarters. I'm just like,
Hmm.
they want something from him, but I
Yeah.
didn't necessarily think that they were a pirate captain.
Yeah.
So, till that moment, but
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So this is where I completely fell in love with Jesse James Keitel, because she now from this moment on plays a completely different character, and her
Mhm.
vamping and just so over the top stuff, which I feel like rides the line and could be cringeworthy, but she does it so well that I don't care. I'm on board. Like her doing the little fake crying, and even like the cackle when she's in the command chair after firing the phasers. I
Oh,
love it.
this is fun!
And
Okay.
that line specifically, I'm like, okay, if I was a guest star on Star Trek, that would be how I would be feeling inside about being on the set. And I was like, yeah, that I would sit in the chair and fire the phasers if they were real and say, "Oh my god, this is so much fun." Absolutely.
And this was and Dave is saying exactly in the chat what I was about to say,
Hmm.
was we came to the same conclusion, but we didn't actually discuss it until later on. So, yeah.
Mhm. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
it's, their Angel is living their life to the absolute fullest, all emotions set at 11,
Mhm.
and so that, that for me was the thing that I thought of, like, well, they are just really living their life. They are really just enjoying the hell out of everything and just full throttle emotions, and
Mhm.
then, that made a lot of sense when we figured out who Zamboni was. I mean, Zavarius, I couldn't remember the name that they used, and so I just kept calling him Zamboni for a while. Sorry.
Zavarius. Yeah,
Yeah.
this mysterious Vulcan prisoner Zavarius that Angel is after, someone who's under the control of T'Pring at their detention facility.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. I'm
It's a
curious.
prison.
Yeah, it totally is.
Mhm.
I'm curious when exactly you knew who that character was.
When Spock figured it out.
Yeah, right? Right when
But but I wasn't sure they were actually going to go there
that's
until they
yeah.
did.
I thought they were going to like intimate it, and I was like, I don't care whether they say it or not. I think this is so and so, and I bet you it'll be revealed in a future episode. Oh no, okay, this episode. Okay, cool. But yeah, right when because I hadn't thought about it until Spock goes, oh, of course, and I go, of course. Oh my god, it's
And when they actually did go there, this was me.
yeah, yeah,
Just like that, pretty much just a codfish
yeah.
gaping.
So yeah, that final, and we'll go back because there's still some other stuff I want to talk about that's going on here. But like jumping to that final scene with the reveal, I was watching it with Nikki, my wife, and uh, basically that whole time, what I was doing was like kind of like hitting her leg, and yep, totally.
I hit Dave all the time. He does not like it. I'll be like, and he'll just be looking at me like, "Ow, stop it."
I think, yeah, Nikki was just kind of pleasantly bemused at my reaction. So she's kind of like, okay. So yeah, I don't think obviously people have talked about it in the comments. I don't think we've actually said the name yet, but of course, Zavarius is Cybok,
Cybok.
half brother. Um, and I've got to wonder about the definitely existent percentage of the fan base watching this who have maybe watched all of Discovery, but just have never gotten to the classic films, never seen Star Trek 5. And I wonder how many of them are going like, oh wow, Spock's got another secret sibling. Come
Okay.
on.
Again, again, starting with Journey to Babel, okay,
Mhm.
Spock has proven that the most canon thing about Spock is him not telling anyone about his family.
Yeah, no, obviously. I just think it's funny that like people nowadays might be thinking they're pulling the same plot point now that they did a few years ago, and it's like, no, 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 this is the previous one. I just think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cybok, bringing him into, and I mean, it feels to me like this isn't something they're a one and done with. Like it doesn't
Oh,
feel,
absolutely not. We're gonna
yeah.
see him. We're gonna fully see him. He's got kind of a Spock season 2 of Discovery thing going on with the hair and beard, copycat.
Ah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be revisited, and
Mhm.
I was going to say, oh, maybe sometime in the far future, but coming back to what I was saying about T'Pring and stuff, maybe in a couple weeks, who knows, right? So
Maybe season finale?
could be,
Mm,
could be.
mm,
All right, well, let's jump back though to the scene where basically Angel is trying to trade Spock's life for Zavarius with T'Pring, and Spock plays this gambit where he gets Chapel in on this and basically has to play act that they're dissolving their mating bond because he's been having an affair with Chapel, which he never actually says. Chapel kind of clues into what Spock's doing and admits the affair, and they have all
mhm.
this. And this is another moment where they're playing with fans' expectations about where the Spock to Pring story is going, because I think we all knew that T'Pring knew this was a bit of a put on,
Mhm.
but it could very easily have been like we see them dissolve their mating bond. That could be like something that is another step on the road to what we see happen in Amok Time. But yet again, just like in the episode Spock Amok, they're closer by the end of the episode,
But are
which
they?
I think, wow, okay. I think into Pring's mind they are. We'll talk a
Mhm.
little bit about Spock and Chapel because they do this kiss, of course, that when I saw the kiss, I said to Nikki, "Uh-oh, this kiss is very real for one of them." And then a scene later I'm like, "Oh no, it was very real for both of them."
Yeah, that's the thing. He was not expecting to feel something.
Mhm. Mhm. So, first of all, Jess Bush plays this so well. Like the look on her face, and then as she like melts into that kiss, I'm like I'm believing this. Like at this point, they're not actors playing characters on a thing. I'm like, oh no, Jess Bush and Ethan Peck have fallen in love with each other. Like they just play it so well. They're so good.
Mhm. Acting! Yeah, I've
Good
never
heavens.
wanted to be Nurse Chapel so badly in all my life.
I had that thought. I figured you were thinking that. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
'Cause, and I said to Dave, "Oh, he does not kiss to Pring like that."
Mm-mm. And like the imagery as well of like both of them locked in that embrace and T'Pring looming on the screen behind them with her eyes just locked on them. Dang, what an
Yeah.
image.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it makes you wonder about all of the things, and of course, retconned, of course, whatever, all of the things going through T'Pring's mind in Amok Time now. Like
Mhm.
all of this history that we had no idea about, that we never saw, that was never even probably imagined when they made that episode, obviously. But now we're getting this. Like it's just it's my favorite way of adding to canon is building more layers upon what we've seen before and giving it more
Yes.
import and more meaning. So
Mhm.
like when T'Pring declares the ritual challenge, is that image of Spock and Chapel kissing in her mind? Like,
Mm.
like just little things. I'm like, it's interesting.
Yeah. She is, well, the thing is, they were never a good match to
Mm-hmm.
begin with, and that's very clear, actually, in episode 1 of this season, and she still gets her little digs in every time she can,
Mm-hmm.
and so, there's already this distance that is has begun between them, and there's no there's really not gonna be a way to reconcile that
Yeah.
because especially with that final scene between Spock and T'Pring, because, she says, it shows that, "I didn't believe for 1 second that you were actually, into that," is basically what she says, and he is stricken.
Yeah, the look on Spock's face is just, uh, you know, um, we might have lost Brandi. She's kind of frozen, but yeah, Spock's reaction there gave away the farm, I think. And um, to Pring's line also about what was it, where she said, "Your human half really sold the passion of that kiss," or something like that. That was I feel like that was almost her saying like, I think I really know what was going on there, but she might be deluding herself, like Wellington says. I think she's fooling herself. So
Yeah. Well, just she does that. She's striking back at him, I feel like,
mhm.
for doing that, even though she's acting like, "Oh, it was no big deal. I knew you weren't really into that." And just, the way that he says, "Of course not." And then
Yeah.
later when he says, she says all these other things and how his human side could be a strength because there was no way he could have sold the kiss otherwise, and he says, "You know me well," but he doesn't mean it. 'Cause she doesn't know him well, she doesn't.
Hmm.
But when he says it to Chapel, he means it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that final scene between Spock and T'Pring hurts me. It
Yeah.
hurts
There's
me.
there's a lot going on there. Um, yeah, in both of their minds, I think. And also juxtaposed with the scene between Spock and Chapel at the end,
Mhm.
where like Chapel's going through an emotional roller coaster in her head right now because she's going like, "Ah, oh, crap, what does this mean?" Um, and that's the scene, of course, where that and the one with T'Pring is where you realize like, oh, Spock's felt more than he's let on as well, and
Mhm.
it's complicated. Things are gonna get more complicated before they get simpler. Um,
Yeah.
so, and beautifully sold by all of the actors involved. Like they're so
Agree.
good.
So very good.
Yeah. And then yeah, from there we get the reveal of Cybok, and gosh. Oh, and also it should be said, we're hoping, Cybok might come back, might be a recurring thing or something like that. Someone else might come back and be a recurring thing because Captain Angel gets away at the end.
Mhm.
Gets away to torment the Enterprise crew another day. Please, please, please.
I'm
Paramount
here for it.
CBS.
I'm here for it. So here for it. Well, the thing is that they made a big deal about that necklace, and I thought that necklace is really important to them. And when once I knew that they had turned villain, which, yes, they are a villain, they tried to kill T'Pring.
Mhm.
So, um, yeah, I knew there was something about that, and so when they they hide it away. until they need it, and so when they pull it out of their little turtleneck, I'm like, "Yeah, that's a transporter. That's
Mhm.
definitely a transporter."
Yeah.
So, yeah, but now we've gotta talk about Pike's hair.
Yes. So, okay. The uh the activities he got up to in the last episode, we see him post coital, let's just say it.
Mhm.
Perfect. But
Perfect.
a couple rounds with a pirate punching him. That's what it takes to mess it up. We find out. Okay, that's what it
Mhm.
takes to bring it down.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he was probably hit pretty hard, I mean, otherwise, that wouldn't have moved. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
and,
I also think that Orion Captain was a little flirty with Pike too.
oh, absolutely, I mean, he
The
says,
comments
"Nice
on his
jawline."
jawline.
Yeah. Remy was into Pike.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, so yeah, there's so many things in this episode that like I've seen people cite as being over the top, but they're all things that I just ended up loving about this episode.
Mhm.
And it's stuff that I think the episode earned a little bit because like Pike's just being goofy and I'm
Mhm.
kind of here for it. Uh we get
W
the shot
wait
of
till
them on the
next week.
Oh, I know, because I've seen it too.
Yeah, I know.
All
Mhm.
right. Mm,
Yep.
mm. Um, but yeah, like we see the shot of the bridge of the Serene Squall, and Pike's at like the big like ship wheel. I'm like, okay, this could be ridiculous, but what the heck? This episode's earned
No,
it. I love it. I thought that was
it's
hilarious.
it's a pirate ship. Of
That's
course it
right.
has a wheel.
And we also need to talk about Pike's pirate impression at the end on the bridge because there's so much going on in that scene and I love it so much. He's doing the eye thing and he's talking like a pirate and the camera's panning over and number one's reaction, please stop. And
No,
then the
it's
camera focuses on Pike again and he's so sad. His face just falls and he's like, I love that. I was there for it. I know personally
mm,
other people have seen that and they're like, "Oh, I hated that. It was so cringe."
loved it.
Yeah, it
No,
was
it was
cringe and it was
fantastic. It was
hilarious.
fantastic. Yeah,
So good.
because Una's just minding her damn business, and all of a sudden he starts that, and she's like this, "Please stop."
Yeah. And
So perfect.
Una is the audience that are finding that scene too cringe and not liking it. You get your representation in Una because yeah,
Mhm.
that is a reaction to that. My reaction is Ortega's because the camera keeps moving and she is like that close to pissing herself laughing. And yep, that's me.
Mhm. Agree,
Yeah.
agree. I loved it unabashedly, and just how quietly Una says it too, but she doesn't have to say it very loud. He hears her.
Yep. Yeah. And Erica, that was seriously my favorite part of that scene. He's just like, oh, he's so sad. Oh man. Okay. Ah, yeah. So cards on the table here. Actually,
Mhm.
I'm gonna turn it to you first. Final thoughts about this episode, anything we didn't cover, and a rating of some sort for the Serene Squall. And that
Right,
goes for the folks in the chat as well.
right. So, the other truth that Angel spoke was, uh, I put it she doesn't say it excuse me, they don't say it exactly this way, but, I posit that choosing between being human and Vulcan is and always has been a false choice.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. It's
Mm-hmm.
true. You gotta hate it when the villain is telling you stuff that's gonna make you think later. And I actually really love this episode. I really, really do. And I give it one Ortega's pulling a phaser out from beneath her chair and raining hell down on the people invading the bridge.
That's a great rating. And yeah, I'm going to fully put my cards on the table. As I said, this is absolutely my favorite episode of Strange New Worlds thus far. And at least one person I've told that to was completely shocked by that. So,
What?
I know.
Why?
But I loved this episode so much. Start to finish, I can't find a single fault with it. I enjoyed it so much. All of the lighthearted bits were terrific. How do you even fire
Gently.
lightly? Gently. Yeah, how do you even do that?
Gently.
What does that even mean? I loved it.
I loved his face when it happened. He's like, I said gently.
Yeah, and I had decided, I think, that it was my favorite episode even before they outright said this is Cybok, and that just like put it to the moon for me, because I'm not because this is a character I've always hoped they always would bring back or anything like that, but just the sheer like bravery of like, yeah, we're gonna tackle this story. I'm like, all right, okay, way to go.
I will say this. I do not like Star Trek V. I have only seen it once in its entirety, and that was in the theater with my family. None of us liked it, but
Mhm.
I don't have a problem with Cybok as a character. I
Mhm.
only have a problem with the way that character was portrayed, not by the actor, but what the character was given, how that character was executed in Star Trek V, and how Star Trek V was executed. I don't like any of that, and I have
Mhm.
tried to get through it again, and I just give up about 20 minutes in every time. So, I don't have a problem with them bringing Sybok into this at all.
Mhm.
Even though I didn't appreciate what was done in that movie, that doesn't mean there isn't stuff to mine with this character. Give it to me. I am here for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Star Trek Five is definitely my least favorite Star Trek movie. I've watched it multiple times. There's bits in it that I like, but overall, not a fan of that film, which is okay. There can be parts of Star Trek you don't like and parts that you do like, and they don't have to match everyone else's. That's fine too. Um, but I'm just, the fact that they're bringing this character in who could be, on paper pretty difficult to try and navigate around. I like that they're doing that. I like that
Mm.
they're actually making that effort. So even more bonus points for that, even above when I already thought this was going to be my favorite episode. And yeah, it is. So I'm giving it. Sorry, I'm also trying to make sure I don't skip anybody's ratings. I'm gonna give it. Yeah, 5 out of 5 Pike pirate impressions, and to heck with Una. You can do them. You have my permission, Captain.
I
um,
hope they still have Talk Like a Pirate Day in the 23rd century.
yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
Seedy human books. I like that. All right.
Sexy, sexy.
Yeah. Well, Brandi, when you're not, no, I'm not going to go with that.
No. Oh
when
dear.
when when you're
When I'm
not
not wishing I was Chapel, yeah.
um when you're not reviewing Earth literature for Spock, where can we find you online?
I'll do anything for Spock. You can find me on Twitter, Brandywine12, and that's where you'll find out what episode of what podcast I've been on is coming out. And you'll see a lot of fan art and Star Trek stuff retweeted. So
Excellent.
How about you, Dan? Where can people find you, Dan?
You can find me on Twitter at Kurtrats, and of course in the Positively Trek podcast with Bruce Gibson. New episode is coming out Tuesday. Bruce and I talk about this episode. It's a really fun discussion. We cover a lot of what we covered in this live show, but a few things that we didn't mention here, and you'll get Bruce's opinion about it as well. Which, anyway, I'll leave you to listen to that episode, and also book club episodes every 2 weeks. Those are a lot of fun. We just did Adventures in the 32nd Century, the 4-issue comic miniseries. That was a lot of fun. I thought that was a good episode. Hopefully you read those comics and check out that episode. And next week may be difficult, but even if we're not back next week, we will make up for it. Of course, we always cover all the new episodes. So if we can't make it next week, which is a possibility, we'll definitely do a makeup episode where we cover a couple of episodes. So
yes,
we'll
which
see.
will be 2.5 hours long.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I have a lot to say about the next episode.
I know. I do too, which is I was like, oh no, next week is the week where my schedule goes wonky again. Oh, why that week? But anyway, I'm glad it didn't for this week for sure though, because this was incredible. So thank you all for joining us. We'll see you again soon to talk about the Elysian Kingdom and whatever episode of Strange New Worlds comes out after that. And we'll see you then. Thank you so much. Live long and prosper, and have a great night.